Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Institute of Advanced Studies. I'm Ksenia Chmutina, the director of the IIS. And today we are absolutely delighted to launch the Festival of Failures. We've managed not to fail to do the Festival of Failures. So far, there haven't been any failures either, but we have a whole week of events, so you never know how this might end up. So the IIS at Loughborough University is a place for transdisciplinary, exciting conversations where we encourage our colleagues to meet with residential fellows and kind of to really talk about things that matter. And failure is absolutely one of those things. And failure is something that we don't really talk about today. So over the week, we're going to have different events. You can follow them on our events page. Also, just a couple of house rules. We will be recording the presentations, but Q&A will be edited out afterwards. For those online, if you have any questions and comments, just post them, and we are monitoring things online. And to open the Festival of Failures today, we are delighted to welcome Professor Dan Parsons, who is our Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation. And I'm sure Dan will tell us all about failures, personal and otherwise. Thank you so much, Dan.
And thanks for the invitation to come along and welcome everybody. When I was first invited to come along to talk at the Festival of Failure, I had to read twice to check whether or not there was something sat behind the invitation that I was unaware of. But given I think it landed on the 1st of April. But hi, I'm Dan Parsons. I'm the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation here at Loughborough. And this is one of my favourite parts of the university. I think it's where it's a real catalyst for new ideas, for challenging the status quo, and when the opportunity to support something that explored different meanings of failure came up as part of the call for ideas and various thematic drivers. I thought this was something that would be awesome to support, and I was really pleased that the committee decided to put on this event. So, without any further ado, it's really my pleasure to open the festival as a plenary session today. It's a real opportunity for you all to connect together and discuss different notions of failure, what it means in its different forms, and perhaps. One thing, certainly in my career, to really reflect on is that failure is inevitable in all sorts of different ways. And indeed, to succeed often means to have failed to begin with. And sometimes failures can be a success as well. And I think exploring that holistically will be a real outcome from the event. In our pursuit of knowledge and excellence, failure is often seen negatively. Really thought of as that outcome that wasn't wanted. And I refer to, I think, a famous quote by Thomas Edison, who I think after 1,000 experiments finally got a filament and light within a light bulb. And perhaps the neatest example, given the light bulb moment and that his success resulted in. The 1,000 times that he failed, he didn't see them as failures. They were just that the experiment that didn't work. And I think that's a nice framing of what failure means to some people rather than others. And indeed, the learning and the calibration of failure is an inherent part of what we do as researchers, consistently failing in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, but discovering new things along the journey. And failure can be a catalyst for growth, an opportunity for insight. And I think if you can harness some of that in what you talk about across the festival, I think that'll be a superb outcome from the get-go. Failure also, I think, helps us ask better questions. The question perhaps that we started off with that resulted in what we perhaps perceive as a failure leads to us asking the question in a different way, leads to us thinking about something in a different way, and that failure unlocking opportunity, be that catalyst, as I said. I think failure also propels us into the unknown and can be that opportunity for innovation that we perhaps hadn't thought of to begin with. And I think if you're not failing at something, we're not doing things close enough to the edge. We're not being risky enough in the pursuits that we're undertaking. And again, I'd implore you to kind of think about some of those themes as you move through. As Ksenia said, you're going to hear about all sorts of interdisciplinary perspectives and hear from scholars that have embraced and faced failure in different ways and really understand the insights that come from that. And again, I would suggest that failure is something not to be feared, but something to be embraced in terms of that journey and appreciated. Let us also, I think, be mindful of sharing our own failures. I always with my research group and team, I've always shared when that paper hasn't landed and I see that as a failure. Or that grant wasn't funded and see that as some sort of failure. But quite often, actually, it's led to a better grant and a better paper. And I think, again, thinking about the mechanisms of research as well as the outcomes to research in the context of failure is a really useful thing. So I encourage you all to engage in those discussions, question the assumptions around failure, embrace the unexpected throughout the festival, and celebrate failures and that have shaped the journey and undoubtedly shape our futures as well. I'm going to finish with a sporting analogy. There's a book called Black Box Theory, and how many of you come across it? Go read it. It's from I've forgotten the author's name. He used to play table tennis for England. Matthew. He was a Times columnist as well. A really great book, all about black box theory. Shows how, from learning from failures, learning from the black box recorder in aeroplanes, how aviation has gone from being quite a risky endeavour to being the safest form of transport, despite recent turbulent events in Singapore Airlines. It's still the most the safest form of transport, and it's because every single air accident or airborne issue has been recorded by the black box recorder and then fed back into safety systems, and the learning has been pristine. And what Matthew Syed argues in black box theory, in thinking about sports, and I have to bring it back to sport being at Loughborough University, is the greatest champions at sports are those that learn from their failures the best. I wish someone had told me that when I was a youthful footballer. I should be learning from my failures. But yeah, and it goes on to demonstrate through different sporting endeavours how learning and learning from those mistakes that you make leads to sporting success. And again, I think it emphasises the journey of failure and the learning along that journey from it. So without any further ado, welcome to the festival. I hope you all learn profound outcomes from your engagement with the IAS and this theme, and I look forward to hearing from Ksenia and others on the outcomes of the discussions that you all have.
Thank you so much, Dan. And you tell us all about the week.
Yeah, so my name is Mike Shaw, and I'm kind of one of the co-conveners of the festival. So every year the IAS run a call for a theme where they run a series of events through a year, and we entered that process and we weren't selected. So we were actually second winners in that. Yes. So really, I mean, we're really interested in discussing ideas of failure. It's really about thinking about how we might accept and exploit and learn from failure, how we might minimize our risk aversion and the fear of failure, which is a particular thing that plagues my subject. So I'm an artist, I'm probably a bit of an outlier here. It's about trying to find ways to anticipate and identify and how we can remedy points of failure. Certainly thinking about dealing with the consequences of failure once they become inevitable, and perhaps thinking about using failure to understand structures, systems, cultures, and society, which I think touches on our sort of respective areas of interest. And to that end, we're lucky enough to have 4 international fellows who are going to deliver a series of events through this week, looking at the language and psychology of failure, failure within the body, perhaps at a cellular level and the total system. We have another fellow who will be looking at conflict, failures in philosophical belief systems, and then also finally any kind of failures in engineering and software, the latter being something quite pertinent that's happening in England presently. So there are a whole series of events that you can attend. So tomorrow morning we have Professor Echevarria and Professor Strommel talking, and there's a session Tuesday afternoon as well, and also on Wednesday morning where we shift to Professor Ottenblad, and that's obviously up on the website, so do come along to those. So I just wanted to think about myself personally, why do this at Loughborough? Well, we know probably some of you who are on campus, some of you new to campus, you've seen the amazing sports facilities. Every so often you see people running around campus in the proximity of the campus, and they don't really look like they're running, they just look like they're floating. And you know they're going really, really fast. And the worst thing is, they don't look like they're trying. And you know, if you were trying to keep up with them, you'd last about 3 paces. Of course, the university wants to promote successes. You know, if you look at the website, you will see that in the recent Tokyo Olympics and the Commonwealth Games, had Loughborough been a country, it would have come extremely high up the medal table if it took into account all its current students, its graduate students, and the athletes that are trained on campus and used and benefited from the facilities. But of course, we know if you're the winner, that's great. If you get a second medal, a bit disappointing. If you get the bronze, you're quite happy too. What about 4th, 5th, and 6th? Well, we know that if you run the marathon, you don't have to win the marathon to actually succeed as well. So there's this notion that perhaps within this whole idea of success and inspiring winners, there's a kind of this kind of whole area where people are sort of nominally failing, but maybe they aren't. So perhaps this week is also an opportunity to consider how we can make all activities inclusive in a way. And I think one of the key things for me personally is this idea of distinguishing failures from acting and failures from not acting. And there are positives and potential negatives to both of those 2 sides of that point. So again, some of those are the discussions that we might have this week. Of course, if you're from England, you know all about the scandal at the post office. If you're not, what happened over the course of about 15 years, the post office accounting system had some software that allegedly couldn't fail. And there was a whole miscarriages of justice where people got sent to prison for false accounting and possibly stealing money, which they didn't do. But again, that's one of the current things. Of course, we're fully aware of conflict failure at the moment, both in Russia and in the Middle East. We have failures around the movement of peoples. As Dan mentioned, we had the recent episode on the aeroplane. I imagine when some of you came over on your planes, the fellows, as soon as that ting went off, you hear that echo of seatbelts being undone, that it just scatters around. And yet, when we get into a car, the first thing we do is put our seatbelt on. I'm sure that had some of those people not failed, kept their seatbelts on, many of them probably wouldn't have been injured. Of course, now, Singapore Airlines has changed its policy around seatbelt. Well, you know, perhaps a little late. Of course, we had the recent stuff around Boeing, who've perhaps been foregrounding profit over safety. We might extend that into all sorts of sporting successes and failures. We've had recent scandals around failure in sporting governance and sporting athlete support, which again is quite pertinent to Loughborough. Some of the coaching and the welfare scandals that have gone in gymnastics, swimming, and other areas really. So perhaps hopefully some of these are things that we can talk about today. So as previously mentioned, there's kind of 4 of us who are the core team from Loughborough who are going to talk today a little bit about our own personal research areas and what we're interested in. So I think Dr. Afzal Ashraf is going to speak first. We have Dr. Mark Burney from the School of Sport and Exercise. and Professor Lisa Jackson from the School of Aeronautics and Automotive Engineering. So they'll each give a small presentation, and we can then discuss some of the issues that have arisen from that.